Coming up.
When I couldn't be an engineer, which took out most of my training, I fell back on what I knew. If you do something, do it and do it right. Don't do it halfway. Go to the finish line.
See what happens when you cross rocket science with cattle breeding, next on The American Rancher. Hello and welcome to The American Rancher. I'm Pam Minnick. It's not every day that a rocket scientist becomes a cattleman, but that's the career path of Dr. Fredric H. Born in a small town in Arkansas, he learned from an early age the importance of agriculture and the rewards that came with it.
I was born in the big city of Marmaduke, Arkansas. It had 643 people when I was there. My mom was a school teacher. My father fought with General Patton during World War II and saw some pretty serious action. And when he came home, today they say he had PTSD. Then they called it shell shock. And he stayed home a couple years after the war, and one night went to work, and we saw him 8 years later. And my mother raised 3 kids on a school teacher salary. And in Arkansas, at that time, school teachers didn't make very much, but we all worked. We had paper routes, we chopped cotton, we picked cotton, we drove tractors, we hauled hay. We did things that farm kids do. And when I was in the 8th grade is when Russia launched their first man Sputnik. Yuri Gagarin, I believe, was the cosmonaut's name. He came back and he said, I just proved there is no God. I've been through heaven, I didn't see him. And being a Southerner, being a Christian, that hit me the wrong way. And I said, I'm going to be an electrical engineer and work in a space program, and I'm going to prove him wrong. Kind of strong statements for an 8th grader to make, but they kind of turned out to be true. Graduated from high school, valedictorian in my class. I went to the University of Arkansas to get my degree in electrical engineering. I got married while I was still in college, and my older daughter, Kim, was born about a month or so before I graduated. I interviewed with IBM in Huntsville, Alabama, because Huntsville satisfied 2 of my requirements. One was I wanted to work in the space program. Second is I wanted to get advanced degrees. And IBM built the instrument unit and all the computers and data processors and programming for all the Saturn vehicles. So I joined that team right after the fire that killed astronauts White, Grissom, and Chaffee. Astronauts would come and talk to us and say, you engineers think that 4 9s are good? Says, let's go for 5. Talking about a probability of 0.999 being good, but not quite good enough. They said when you climbed to the top of that big rocket and knew there's 10,000 bad parts below you, that they wanted to reduce that as much as possible. IBM made the decision in early 70s that they were going to leave Huntsville. They were drawing in some, and I didn't want to go up north. They offered me a promotion to go any place they had a permanent facility and to work there, but that's not something I wanted to do.
Dr. Clark had grown to love Huntsville, Alabama, and didn't want to relocate his 2 young children. With that, he and a partner launched a new company called CAS, specializing in radar and missile systems design.
We started working on the what was then the SAMD program in 1973. It turned into the Patriot program, and I guess I worked 30 years as a radar engineer on the Patriot system. That was used as a deterrent then. We had not fired a missile in anger at all. First Persian Gulf War, which was against Saddam Hussein in the late 80s, we of course shot down a number of Scud missiles and have continually improved it until during the Second War. It also has been used more as a deterrent as anything else, because it is the only U.S. ground-based air defense system that's ever fired a missile in a war. But so that got me to to form a company called CAS, Clark and Stender, and we started on our kitchen table and worked. And when I sold the company in 2006, we had over 1,000 employees in 26 U.S. cities and 4 foreign countries. The only bad thing about that was when I sold it, I could not be a practicing engineer for 7 years, condition of sale. If I couldn't be an engineer, which I trained to be and which I had practiced to be for 30-some years, I had bought first parts of Deer Valley Farm to deer hunt on. I'd bought some more property, we expanded it. We started in '89 with commercial herds, then we went to the limousine breed, and then when you look, the limousines were trying hard to be Angus without the name because they were turning to black. And we decided, well, if you're going to try to imitate something, just be that. And so we bought our first Angus cattle in probably '96, in that time frame. And I always said it doesn't cost any more to own the best. It costs no more to feed a good one than it does a bad one. It costs no more for the upkeep. It just might cost a little more on the front, but the prodigy will more than pay for that. Let's don't start with something and try to breed up. Let's do our best to start at the top, and then we'll have the firm basis on which to build it.
Up next.
When I couldn't be an engineer, which took out most of my training, I fell back on what I knew.
Dr. Clark's agricultural roots skyrockets his next mission, Deer Valley Farms. That story's next on The American Rancher. Welcome back to The American Rancher. After Dr. Fred Clark's career as a rocket scientist ended, his next career move brought him back to his roots in agriculture, and he set out to raise production cattle. It wasn't enough for him to just raise great breeding stock. He wanted to raise elite cattle.
Deer Valley Farm was started in 1989, I think. Started with one small piece of property and then bought the place next to it and the next to it, and acquired quite a bit of land, had quite a bit of grass, and needed to do something with the grass. And his roots in agriculture kind of sparked the idea of getting in the cattle industry, and so he started out buying commercial cows and decided that he wanted something better. Actually started off in the limousine breed. But as the industry transitioned into different directions and things changed, we weren't competing against other limousine breeders. We were competing against Angus breeders. And so we basically decided it was time to join them and try a different avenue. After a few years of running both breeds, it was pretty evident to us that Angus was by far the superior breed that had the most marketability and was easiest to sell. And so we transitioned out of the limousine business and completely into the Angus business around '05. There's so much versatility to this breed. The options across this breed are second to none. You can find so many different avenues in this breed to accomplish what you want to accomplish. One of the real beauties of our location and our program and in this part of the world is that we have lots of customers. We live in a part of the world that has a very dense population. We have many producers in this part of the country, much unlike some of the guys you deal with out west, across the Midwest. The downside of that is those producers are much smaller. So from day one, we had to kind of adopt a concept that the average producer in this part of the world, when he buys a bull from us, that bull has to do it all for him. He's not large enough to have heifer bulls and cow-keeping bulls and terminal cross sires. He's got to buy a bull that can do it all. The reason I believe that Angus is superior to every other breed is that we've been able to raise cattle that were Cavanese, cattle that were extreme in growth, cattle that were extreme in maternal, cattle that were extreme in carcass. We still can put as much phenotype and as much look and structure in an Angus animal as any other breed, but yet we can do it with data and we can do it with EPDs and performance that can stack up with any breed in the country.
You know, education is important because the Angus breed is changing every day. We are We're getting more DNA tests. We're doing more with them. We're making more prodigy predictions. And you've got to stay up on that. You can learn a lot by the numbers. You can produce a lot by the numbers. If the cow can't walk in a pasture and eat and sustain herself, she's got no phenotype, she's got no place in your herd. Because phenotype is, in my opinion, as important as the numbers are.
The Angus cow alone has kept Angus in the equation over the years, in my opinion, that mama matters, and that if you want to build a program that has longevity and that has consistency, that you've got to build around the cow herd. So, we kind of went out and sought what we believe to be some of the very best cow families in the Angus business, and we're very fortunate to add some of those original females to our program that were true matriarchs of the Angus breed. The Rita 614 cow, the Blackbird 558H cow. We had at one time, I think we had 9 direct daughters of the Forever Lady 57D cow. We put quite a bit of time and effort into identifying and finding those tremendous cows that had very proven cow families and that we believe we could build a herd around, and it worked really well for us.
Deer Valley also has an extensive embryo transfer program.
The beauty of the embryo transplant program is it allows us to identify those animals that have achieved and excelled above the rest of the herd, and we can bring those cattle out of your typical year-to-year gestation period and put them into transplant and mass produce those cattle in a way that we can really impact our program. Instead of that great cow having us 1 calf a year, we can flush her 3 to 5 times a year, and we might get as many as 25 or 30 calves out of her this year. It really impacts the quality of our herd and the quality of what we have available to sell. But today we have the ability to take those kind of maternal genetics, and in our breed we have performance and carcass that are second to none, that we can go back on that maternal cow and we can create things that can satisfy any end of the industry. When we raise a bull here, he's pretty much got to be able to be that Cavanese sire, that gross sire, that maternal sire, that carcass sire. He's got to do it all. Our belief has always been that if we chased any one trait, or we tried to live in that top 1 percentile of any one trait, that we gave away too many things to achieve that. Our philosophy has been that we would identify 10 or 12 of those most relevant traits that fit our customer base, that fit our everyday world where we live in Middle Tennessee, and we've basically developed a program around cattle and individuals that can live in that top 10% of those traits, and that the balanced trait selection across those traits will get us where we need to be as a program. Over time, we've kind of let that mold our plan and our direction as a program.
Up next,
from day one, we have strived to produce cattle that were of the extreme in quality and in genetic merit and in DNA and in EPDs.
If you do something, do it and do it right. Don't do it halfway. Go to the finish line.
now is your chance to add Deer Valley Farms genetics into your program. We'll tell you more about that next on The American Rancher. Welcome back to The American Rancher. Today, Deer Valley Farms is home to some of the most prominent Angus donor females and one of the most innovative young herd sire batteries in the business. With top service and superior genetics, Deer Valley Angus cattle add value to your bottom line.
Every decision we make, everything that we do as a program is geared towards producing commercial bulls for our customers, and that's what drives us in every direction we go every day. We sell 18-month-old bulls rather than yearlings like a lot of parts of the country. You know, we believe that we can develop the bulls a notch slower. We develop on a forage-based system. Those bulls are going to go out in a lot more realistic rig and hold up and do a better job for our customers. They're either on a silage-based diet from weaning on to a grass or forage-based diet all the way through.
We farm around 1,500 acres of row crop, basically to raise the food for the cattle. We raise corn, in which we cut for silage. We cut some 400 acres, I guess, for silage, and then we feed probably 60, 70,000 bushels of shell corn each year. And then I have a number of acres of soybeans, which I use to rotate the crops to keep the land built up, because one thing that we are supposed to do is be good stewards of the land. We have about 200 acres of hay that we bale 3 or 4 times a year. And after our crops are harvested, we send the samples to a nutritionist who will then look at what we have and then make recommendations for the types of rations that we need to feed the bulls, the cows, the dry ones, the wet ones, the babies, and all. So we do all that feed mixing here on the farm and feed a total mixture ratio.
We've been very fortunate to develop a tremendous commercial following. We sell in the neighborhood of 500 commercial bulls a year. The bulk of those bulls will go in the southeastern part of the United States. Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas. That would be the majority of where our bulls would go, but we're very fortunate that in any given year we'll scatter bulls from California to New York. You know, our bull business is built around repeat buyers. Producers that have had very, very, very good success with our product, that have enjoyed our customer service and our relationships, and for 10, 12, 15 years, they've utilized our bulls in their programs and they've worked. So they continue to come back year after year. Obviously, quality of product gets them here. But the relationship that you build with that customer, the service that you provide to that customer, that's what keeps them here. The cattle got to continue to work, but people are going to do business with providers that they're comfortable with, that stand behind their product, that offer guarantees and actually follow through with those guarantees when they have an issue. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves on here at Deer Valley is that we stand behind our guarantee. We have one of the best guarantees in the business. We guarantee every bull that leaves this place for the first breeding season, no matter what. When you make an investment in a bull, it's just that in our mind. You're not buying something to get you by. You're making an investment in an animal at Deer Valley that's going to change your program and improve your program. And if that animal gets home and can't do that job, then we hadn't done our job of following through on our guarantee. At Deer Valley, we have basically 4 sales a year. We have a big production sale in November, which is kind of our marquee event of the year. We'll sell basically 200 bulls ready to go to work. We'll sell 175 to 200 females that are breeding age heifer calves, bred heifers and cow-calf pairs, some donors, some embryos, and some pregnancies at some events. But that's kind of our marquee event of the year. We have a spring bull sale in March every year, and we'll sell about 125 breeding age bulls ready to go to work in March. May of every year we have another female sale, and basically we sell the spring calving 5-year-olds every year in May, and we'll sell a set of fall bred heifers. And then in October we have a bull sale down in Okeechobee, Florida every year. Superior has been a part of our program for probably the last 7 or 8 years. We will always broadcast the big sale in November. And some years we do the sale in March, just depends on the year. If you're available this fall, we'd sure love to have you come here in November and join us. We put on quite an event that weekend. It's November the 14th, 13th, and 14th. We'll have all the cattle on display on the 13th. We'll feed you a nice certified Angus beef prime rib supper on Friday night. We'll have cattle available to view again on Saturday morning, and we'll have them ready to sell at 11 o'clock on Saturday. We chase the future, and we chase perfection, and we chase and embrace change and evolution. At Deer Valley, we don't have problems, we just have solutions. One of the things that's been very positive for me to learn over the years is that you got to stop and back up and evaluate what you're doing. If it works, great. Let's do it again next year, and let's try to figure out a way to do it better. If it didn't work, then let's find a new plan. The sooner we find a new direction or a new plan, the more positive the outcome's going to be.
You learn as you go. You get better as you go at anything. And you get more information. So you may not know how to do something particularly now, but you do the best you can. But then next year you get a lessons learned, and you apply those lessons learned to where you are to see how you need to go to meet the desires that you want for that project.
I've learned so much from Dr. Clark over the years. His philosophies, his values, his ideas have really molded me as I've grown over the last 22 years here. If you know him, you know that he's a true gentleman at heart, and he believes in being fair and being honest, and he's a Christian that believes every day should be lived like Jesus planned it. And those values have basically molded me and this place over the years as we have developed into what we are today.
I would like to have a farm that will go into the future to pass on to future generations of my family. And my family is not just me and my blood kin, it's JP and his family, it's Jeff and his family, and those that's been with me through all these times. I wanted to have a farm that will be an institute where the kids can grow up. When you finish a day, you look back on the day and see what happened. You should feel good about what happened that day. If you do something, do it and do it right. Don't do it halfway. Go to the finish line.
Increase your bottom line by adding Deer Valley genetics to your program. Their annual production sale will be held November 14th in Fayetteville, Tennessee. The sale will also be broadcast on Superior Productions. For more information about Deer Valley Farms, visit deervalleyfarm.com. And that's all the time we have today. To find out more about us, visit our website, theamericanrancher.com, or connect with us on Facebook. I'm Pam Minnick. For our entire American Rancher team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
That was Superior.